Teresa at the Divine Frequency. May 19th through the 22nd of 2017 was Contact in the Desert, where people got together to listen to workshops and speakers talk about topics like ETs, human origins, and the secret space program. Corey Goode made some big announcements at this event, including him and his team working on a comic book, a TV show, and some other things as well. After this event, some people in the community were triggered and wondering about his motives behind these projects. So, without further ado, we're going to give Corey a chance to respond to these allegations. He came to me about 3 weeks ago and really wanted a chance to go over these allegations and wanted to do this through my channel. I obliged, and we did an interview last week. So this took us over 4 hours to go through the allegations and talk about them. And I did want to mention that I had a lot of people contact me with viewer questions. So we were not able to go through all of your viewer questions like we wanted to. And I wanted to make a quick note that we will be doing extra sessions between Corey and I so we can talk about more Q&A and things like that. So first of all, thank you so much for submitting your questions, and we will get to those here in the future as well. So I hope you guys enjoy the interview. Also, if you would like to enjoy more exclusive content from me, feel free to go over to my Patreon and subscribe there. Bye! Hi, this is Teresa at Divine Frequency, and we've got Corey Goode here with us.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So I'm going to do a quick intro about you so that the viewers know who you are. For those who don't know Corey Goode, at the age of 6, he was inducted into the military abduction program. He was identified as an intuitive empath, and he was part of this program until he was 17. And then he was taken into the secret space program, where he was a part of what's called the 20 and back, where you go out into the space program. He talks about bases on the moon and Mars, all kinds of information, brings it back. He did this program 3 times. And what I mean by that is that when you come back from the 20 and back, you are age regressed and time regressed. So you come back to when you were 17. This happened 3 times. So he served 60 years in the secret space program, came back as a 17-year-old, lived the rest of his life and met his wife and has kids. And then around a certain point, I don't know when, maybe 2012, 2013, started connecting to people online through a pseudonym, and then at some point came out into the public eye around 2015. He has a show on Gaia TV called Cosmic Disclosure, where he talks about all of these experiences that he had off planet and even in the inner earth, all kinds of stuff. Cool stuff. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So today in particular, we are going to talk about some of the recent things that have happened. So we all went to Contact in the Desert when was that? A month ago, which was end of May, early June.
Yes.
Yeah, 2017. And you made some big announcements there. Can you tell us a little bit about the announcements that you made?
Yeah, we made a number of them. One of them is that we're doing a joint book. It's called The Case for a Secret Space Program. It's actually the same title as the MUFON Symposium this year. In the book, Dr. Sala, Dr. Woods, William Tompkins, and I are going to write a book together. And just recently, Jay Widener agreed to do a foreword, and David Wilcock also has agreed to do a foreword. So there are going to be 2 forewords to the book by David and Jay. They have both vetted me and Tompkins, so that's really good to have their input. That's very exciting. That's super exciting news. But of course, we did talk about, we're working with trying to get a series on Netflix, similar to Stranger Things. That's still moving along. It takes like 1.5 years to do that process. We're working on a graphic novel as well. So yeah, there's probably projects I forgot to mention. There's so many going on. That's so exciting. I was actually there when you made those announcements, and everybody in the crowd was super excited. Yeah. And especially about the book, I thought that is so important. And especially because when you go into a bookstore and you want to find information about the secret space program, it's really hard. You go into all the different sections on military history, you're not going to really find anything there. You can look in conspiracy and you really don't really find much. And I actually just went the other day to see if I could find anything, and I didn't really see anything at all. Right, that's something I've been talking with Dr. Sala a lot about. He wants to get this information into colleges. That's his exopolitics. That's what he does. So that's how a lot of this book is being geared, not necessarily to sell just to the UFO community. It's meant to be out there more mainstream. The mandate I was given was to bring this stuff more commercially, to get it out there and get it mainstream, so that the mass consciousness will pick up on it and start to demand the release of these technologies. That's a big part of this plan. We want to release these technologies. And the best way to do it is for us to come together, unify, but also through different projects through the entertainment industry to help seed the mass consciousness.
That must feel very empowering after all you've been through, tumbling through this experience of realizing what you've been through and then connecting to how you sit now in the public eye and what that means for you.
Yeah, it's empowering. I'm new to the public eye, so of course I've made mistakes and I've learned from them. But it's a pretty intimidating process.
I can imagine. And so as you have really made these huge strides in your career and started to connect with these people that have been corroborating your story over the last couple of years, you're going to experience a little bit of turmoil in the beginning as people are trying to figure out who you are and what you stand for. And so since you came out with announcing these projects, it's seemed like in the last month or so, there have been a lot of people asking questions, really trying to understand, where you sit, where you come from, why you're here. And I thought that this would be a good opportunity to ask you some questions. I know that you came to me a few weeks ago, saying that you wanted to make some public statements. So I would love to help you do that. I know that there's been some controversies, but we can go ahead and move forward through that together. And I can
Right. And, I've spoken, I speak to David Wilcock almost every day. And one of the things that he told me when I first started to get into this, I guess, business, if you want to call it, is that there are going to be haters, you're going to be attacked, never respond. And that's how he has done, and it's worked great for him. And I've tried to do the same. It's been very difficult. I can take all of the really slanderous stuff coming out about me, but I've gotten pretty triggered when stuff started coming out, about you and Roger, people that I know are have very good intentions and want to make a difference in this world, and to see them slandered like that upset me very deeply. And, we have spoken with attorneys, and one of the attorneys that talked to people in our group stated that it was a good idea to make a public statement. Because there's a lot of people out there that they're sick of this. I'm sick of this. They don't want to hear about it anymore. I don't want to hear about it anymore. But there's a certain percentage of the people that believe not responding is an admission of guilt. And those people have begun to really jump on the bandwagon. So I'm here to set the record straight.
Sounds good. Yes, I know that most of us have made our public statements of people that were involved in. I know you've been busy with filming at Gaia TV and everything, so you're back now, and we've had a chance finally to round up and do this.
Yeah, so. When the attacks first occurred, I was expecting them at Contact in the Desert. We had been warned, but it really hit right after Contact in the Desert, and we were in the middle of filming Cosmic Disclosure. We had all this stuff going on. We could not respond. It all happened at a time to where we just didn't have the time to respond, and it was pretty crazy.
When you say that you were warned at Contact in the Desert, can you talk a little bit more to that?
For weeks before Contact in the Desert, people were contacting us, just like they were contacting Jimmy Church, and the scuttlebutt was out there that Project Avalon was formulating this huge takedown plan, and that they were going to execute it at Contact in the Desert. I was told that they were going to do like they do Trump, stand up and heckling during his speeches, to show up like paparazzi with video cameras in my face, asking me, about different allegations. And, I was hearing all of this, and, I was nervous. I had intrepidation. We told the people at Contact in the Desert all the stuff that was being said, and they bumped up security. That's why David and we were going around with 1 to 2 security guards apiece, because there were active threats.
Did anything happen?
No, but it was a pretty good psyop. I think that the people that were there, they were obviously there because they passed video and all this information back to the attackers. I think they saw how much love was at this event. You know, the organizers of Contact in the Desert do a great job. It's an awesome event. There's no place for, you know, hatred there, and they knew that they would be drowned out.
It would have been out of place.
Yeah.
It really would have been.
So, you know, I had a lot of intrepidation during that trip, and of course, I was staying at the bed and breakfast as much as possible. There were a few people that, you know, we didn't quite trust that were trying to get into our inner circle, that we'd known that they've been saying bad things about us and disparaging us, and then with us they were acting like, oh, we're good friends, you know, and it just, you know, our spidey senses were tingling big time. So we kept the people at arm's length, and those people ended up getting upset. But to explain why we were so reserved and standoffish at Contact in the Desert, which was uncharacteristic. Usually we're mingling. It was because of all the threats that we were told were coming.
And then they came later.
They did. They did. Yeah, it's crazy. You know, to sit there, you know, I know you, you know me, and to hear some of the most slanderous lies, you know, about people, especially like Roger, who's like,
the nicest guy in the world.
He's intimidating looking with these tattoos. He's a big grizzly bear looking guy, but he's the most gentle, sweet guy and loving spirit that you'll ever meet. And nothing like what they're trying to report him as. It's crazy.
Yeah, amazing what people will say when they're behind a computer screen and they don't really.
Well, that's true. You know, there are a lot of narcissists and sociopaths out there, and the anonymity of the internet emboldens them. So a lot of this trolling epidemic that's going on are just a lot of these individuals that are, you know, they have those personality distortions.
Well, I'm going to give you a few opportunities to, you know, make your public claims, and then I'm excited about what's coming in the next few months. And once this is all behind us, and we can just really focus on this book coming out and all this other fun stuff. So,
yeah, and Ancient Aliens. I was recently on Ancient Aliens.
Yeah, tell us about that experience. That was a great episode.
Oh, it was cool. They found a mansion somewhere here in Dallas by SMU. I drove out there with my assistant at the time, and we did the interview. It went real smooth, real well. The producer was he was funny, laid back. It was a very relaxed environment.
Cool. Well, congrats on that. That was really, really cool to see you on Ancient Aliens.
Thank you.
Okay, so I broke this into a few sections. I did a lot of research into the allegations and compartmentalized the interview so that we can kind of attack the attacks together. So the first section...
And these are viewer questions?
These are not... Well, okay, so it was really hard when we made the public statement that we were going to be doing this interview because you wanted to address people's questions and the allegations that were coming out against you. We opened it up to have people send me questions to my email, thedivinefrequency@gmail.com. And I received over 200 emails, and they were questions. Everyone was saying that they support you and they were, you know, excited to have questions for you. And none of them had anything to do with the allegations. I had 2 questions come in that had anything to do with the allegations. One about the Blue Avian hand signal that might be seen as what the Baphomet hand signal is. And then another one that I can't remember, but
they were really reaching on that one. Yeah,
well, nothing was rude. Like even the people that had a question about the allegations were just saying, "Hey, I do support Corey, and this was my question." So, I mean, there were obviously negative things that were being said on the YouTube and channel and the Facebook, but
this is a love and light community, and a lot of us have backgrounds in Christianity. If someone comes up and does a major hit piece that makes someone look like a Satanist, there's a visceral reaction and people pull away. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened. That happened with Linda Bolton Howell, that happened with a bunch of different people. Mm-hmm. But now that they're seeing what has happened, some of them are starting to come back and they're like, okay, that this was obviously, a smear campaign not based in reality.
Yes. Yeah, because a lot of the allegations, most of them were made without any research being done on the person, like particularly about me. If they had done any research, they would have seen that, I have a
journalism.
Yeah. I have a journalism background. I have a degree in journalism, and I also have a Christian background too.
Yeah,
So.
but there's zero journalism behind these. I mean, usually what happens is a source will come to a journalist and say, I have this information. They will investigate it a little bit, vet it out, and then go to the person who the information is about and say, I have this information. What is your side of the story?
Right.
And then put together a real piece of journalistic work.
Yeah.
That's how it works. What has been happening is more of the tabloid kind of journalism.
Yes, absolutely.
And fake news.
Yes.
You know.
There's been a lot of that actually across the board. It's insane how much of that is out there.
What's interesting is that the template that you see used out, in mainstream, the fake news, the armies of trolls and protesters, hacking, calling people Nazis or racists or Satanists, it's the exact same template that the deep state is using against the alliance. That now they're using it in alternative media.
What are you talking about that's so important, Corey Goode?
Yeah, really. What is it about the secret space program that they do not want me to speak about or Tompkins to speak about? What is it about the Air Force narrative that's coming out that they want to support so heavily and that they have big names in the industry supporting? That's something that people should really look into and think about.
Those are the big questions. Yes. So let's talk about the little questions really quick. Let's get through the little questions. Yeah, but so to answer your question, I put these together myself. I took allegations, I grouped them, and I'm going to give you a chance to respond. So
that sounds very much like journalism.
Well, here we are doing journalism. So the first section is we're going to talk about why you got into this in the first place. So the allegations are to make money off of it, to destroy secret space program research, and to create a cult. So making it up for money. There was an interview on May 7th with the dark journalist and Bill Ryan, and an hour in, Bill Ryan states that when you came out with your testimony on cosmic disclosure, that you told David Wilcock a whole swathe of stuff you had never mentioned in your original interview with Christine Anderson. You had also never mentioned this material in the 2 years prior that you had been posting on the Project Avalon forum. Bill Ryan says it was new material as if it was invented. So can you tell us about what material he's referring to and how would you respond to this?
Okay. The prior 2 years on the forum, I was testing the waters, putting out little bits of information. That's what finally brought Bill Ryan, or me, to his attention, to where him and Christine started to ask me a lot of questions. That's where, and that was at the end of the 2 years. So I would not have been talking about all of this secret space program stuff before I came out. So that doesn't make sense. Now, I spoke with Christine in a conversation to where it was the first time I was talking about it. I was overcoming entity attachments and all these other things that were trying to keep me from being able to talk about it. Beforehand, if I tried to talk about it, I'd go into an anxiety attack where I would start stammering really bad. It was really weird. But, after I used the name of Jesus Christ to rid entity attachments, I was able to talk about it for the first time. And then that's a conversation that Christine Anderson captured. And then we did a second interview that wasn't very long, that was over Skype, that was pretty poor audio quality, that I mentioned a little bit more in, but I did not have the opportunity to tell the rest of my story before, Bill Ryan had a big problem with me and turned on me over a silly disagreement between belief systems. He didn't like me using the name of Jesus. He wanted that taken out of the audio. He had this huge argument based on Scientology about what really occurs with entity attachments. I disagreed with him, and it just really kind of went haywire from there.
Could you explain a little bit about entity attachments and what that is?
Yes, through different behaviors in life. You can get them through sexual contact. You can get them through, negative contact with relatives that have entity attachments, that have sociopath kind of tendencies. These entities anchor to trauma, usually. And what I was able to do was identify them through a remote viewing session that they were there. I didn't know they were there before. And there was one main one that called itself the Gatekeeper. And I thought I had gotten rid of it before, but I hadn't. And Stacy said, "Why don't you use the name of Jesus?" And I was like, I was a pre-ministry major, raised by basically a minister. Why didn't I think of that? So I did. I started calling out in the name of Jesus to rid me of these attachments, and I started seeing them flying out.
So do you see them through your third eye, or do you feel them? Or
this was a physical. I was sitting there and I was seeing like shadows, wispy shadows leaving me, just leaving.
So you could see them with your physical eyes?
Yes.
Could Stacy see them?
I was by myself.
You were by yourself when that happened.
I was back in the bedroom, going through like a prayer and intercession kind of thing, really trying to get rid of them because, I was trying to talk about this information and I couldn't.
So you finally had more of a chance to talk about the whole breadth of the story when you were working with David Wilcock on Cosmic Disclosure.
Right. And a lot of this information, as I've stated openly, I was only wanting to provide researchers in the background. I did not want to be public. I'm a major introvert. Getting in front of cameras or people is not my thing. So I was providing David Wilcock with information, Bill Ryan with some. Things were starting to get sour there. And I reached out to Carrie Cassidy. And I told her that I would love to give her information in the background that she could use to vet out, her real sources. And that's the process where I became outed. I had the Skype logs. I was speaking with Carrie Cassidy, and on 3 different occasions, she asked me, "When do you want to do an interview? Let's do an interview. And I said, no. I said, it's a security risk for me. I can't do it. I will only do this anonymously. And after the 3rd time of me saying no, she got frustrated and did an article on her website, Project Camelot, with my name listed all in it. And then she did a video. I think my name was in there like 6 times. I was upset. I contacted Google YouTube support. I forwarded all of the Skype conversations where I said I did not want my name used. I wanted to be anonymous. And they pretty much forced her to pull down that video. Okay.
So you had a lot of information at this point of memories of everything you went through in the 20 and back that you had not had a chance to get out into the public eye.
Right.
So when you decided to go on Cosmic Disclosure with David Wilcock, how did you guys set up? Because it took seasons to get all that information out. I've watched almost all the episodes. Yeah. So what did that plan look like?
Well, originally, Gaia, they wanted me to come in. They've been looking for a good insider. And they've been asking different people, we want to do a show that's really hard-hitting and covers disclosure. I had been talking with David, and David was trying, he was like, listen, everybody knows who you are now after, Carrie put your name out. You might as well come out to Gaia with me and talk with them, because they'd like to, maybe do 10 episodes. So I sat down, and I had no idea what I was walking into. I walked into Gaia. They brought me into a room pretty much right away to where Jay Widener was in there. I didn't know who he was at the time. And there were 2 other people that I believe that were sitting there that are really well versed in everything ufology. And they grilled me. And it was not in that one sitting, obviously, but it was over about 40 hours of them like really trying to trick me. And Jay Widener, when he was sitting across the table, was just sitting there going, was looking at me, this look he has of, I don't know whether to believe this guy or not. But by the end of the process, he had his jaw open. And they said, okay, let's do 10 episodes. And we went, and I think we were in the middle of shooting those 10 episodes to where I was approached by the upper brass. And they were saying, it sounds like you got a lot more information you can talk about. How would you like to do 50 episodes? So I agreed, and the rest is, I guess, history.
So you planned out the first 10 episodes where you're like, okay, I'll touch on the basis of all of this stuff. And then when they were asking you more questions, you were probably having more conversations with them off air.
It was in the interview process where they were vetting me that they realized how much information I really did have.
Okay.
And that was when they were kind of formulating their heads, okay, 10 episodes is great, but, there's a lot more information.
When did you know that Jay Weidner believed you? Was there anything particular?
It was probably after we had been shooting for some time. And often I would say things and I would hear, Jay, holy crap, and he would come in and say, wait. And he would say, that corresponds with this and this that I've heard from so-and-so 10 years ago that I never told anyone about.
Oh, that's cool.
And so all these things started happening. And, Jay was like, dude, this guy's either the best actor in the whole wide world, or, he's telling the truth, because Jay has studied a lot about body language and all that stuff.
Yeah, I guess I should fix that question. Not when did you know Jay Weidner believed you, but when did you feel like, I guess.
Jay is, he's a very sharp cookie, so, but he knows a lot about body language and all that. And I felt him dissecting me, but, he had a lot riding on it, his reputation. So he wanted to make darn sure that, I wasn't going to get out there and make a fool out of him.
Right. So as they extended that to 50 episodes, then how do you actually make the plans though? Do you sit down with David Wilcock and you guys kind of bracket out what the season's going to look like? Or
interestingly enough, we shot 25 episodes in 1 week one time, because some of the people there were afraid that I was going to get knocked off. I wanted to get as much of the information in as possible.
How did that make you feel?
I mean, I totally understood that they, but, there were serious threats, During that time period, I had a pistol within 3 to 5 feet of me at all times, And it didn't help when, people came and started harassing us at our home, from Project Avalon. That's what caused us to have to move. So there was a lot of that stuff going on, we shot 25 episodes in 1 week. I'm wearing the same shirt, But no, what would happen is we would sit down, and we would Jay would say, okay, I think we would like to talk about some of this kind of stuff, and then David Wilcock has been doing this for so long. He just like this and be like, okay, I know how to do it. And they're like, okay. And then we just sit back and David starts the show.
That's awesome.
None of it ever has been outlined. None of it has ever been laid out on paper beforehand. It's always been, some of the updates I'll provide bullet points about what I'm going to talk about to make sure that I get it all in.
Interesting.
But no, it's all improv.
And David Wilcock is such a good interviewer, because when I really respect him as a journalist. And
probably one of the sharpest people out there in the industry. He
definitely knows his stuff. And I loved watching, when I first started watching in the beginning, when it all was coming out, he would ask questions that was exactly where my brain was going, that I wanted to ask you. And he just really, I think, helped the conversation along really well. And in the beginning, you could tell that you were shy and you're trying to get kind of, what's the word I'm looking for?
I was petrified. I was scared, not just of the cameras, but of what was going to happen because of what I was saying.
That makes sense. You could tell you were trying to get oriented in your surroundings, but as time passed, you could tell you were definitely starting to get more comfortable with public speaking.
Yeah, that is, getting used to public speaking, being in front of that black hole that looks like a camera was very hard for me. But then I started going through quite a bit of a physical and spiritual metamorphosis as well.
That was apparent. You could definitely see the changes. So, okay. So then we have May 7th interview, 1 hour in. Bill Ryan says, in terms of an argument that an attorney might make in court, let's look at it that way. You could say, look, this person here, whose case we are trying, there is every financial motivation for them to solve their financial problems on behalf of their family and children by taking advantage of an opportunity to go on television, to be paid reasonably good money for that, and to keep that going for as long as possible by any means possible, because which bloody American doesn't feel themselves that they have a duty to provide for their family? We can't criticize that. Here's the motivation for somebody to take advantage of this opportunity that has been presented to them and just pick up that ball and run with it as fast as they can because they're getting paid. What is your response?
Well, my response is that I do have a family that I have to feed, that if my request to remain anonymous would have been honored, that none of you would even see me today. I was still working in the IT industry and supporting my family well. At the time, I was having some major difficulties. I'd gotten hurt on the job when I first started. I had to have bilateral bicep and rotator cuff surgery. I had to have surgery on a nerve here because I was putting a server, an 80-pound server, into a server rack by myself, which you're not supposed to do. And as I was trying to leverage it up, it started to fall, and I went to catch it, and it jacked me up really bad. So, yes, I was having some financial issues during that time period because workman's comp pays, in Texas anyway, pays like very minuscule, and it was, it was really a rough time. Now, as far as all of this money I'm supposedly making, because of contract reasons, I can't discuss all of the details, but I make most of my money through blueavians.com. It's the affiliate program. Anyone that signs up through blueavians.com, I get $1 a month for them. And people will come in, they will binge watch a month or two and then drop their memberships, but some of them will stay on long term. So that's anywhere between $2,400 and I think the most it ever was like $3,600 one month. And then boom, it dropped right after. Other than that, I just get, I can't say specifically, but hundreds of dollars per episode that I do. And a lot of that money ends up going for expenses for me having to go all the way up to Gaia. They pay for some, but a lot they don't.
Okay.
That money I use, yes, to support my family. This house that we moved into, the house we moved in before was a house we could really afford, around $1,700 a month. Some unpleasantness happened at that location, and some people reached out, very generously paid for us a year in this house. And this house is $2,500 a month. After the first year, it was a 2-year lease. We didn't realize that was signed. After the year, we were responsible for paying it. And if I'm getting $2,400 a month to $3,000 approximately from the affiliate program, that's enough to pay rent and have just a little bit money left over. So yes, I have to find ways to make, that's not a lot of money. That's not the big money that people think that I'm making. Now, I have to make my money at conferences and in other ways. So people that want to criticize me for finding a way to support my family, I really just, it's an argument that I really can't process. There's a lot of shaming that goes on in this community if you make any money in the process. But most of the people shaming you are making money from what they're doing.
Right.
But they're making a very little bit amount of money, and they perceive that since you're on TV, you're making a lot of money. So that perception gets...
I think that the follow-up question, though, and the underlying message that I think people are really trying to get at with that question isn't... Because, yes, I agree with that. I think a follow-up, though, is you have a testimony, something happened to you that you have been talking about, right? And you are on a TV show that is a continuous TV show, right? So once you tell your testimony, people say, oh, well, he's just making things up so that the show can continue on.
Well, no, there was an issue because the show was wildly successful. We're talking like a couple 100,000 people a week watching it. That's way more than CNN. So, we got to the end of my testimony of all of the information I had to say. After that, basically, I have updates every once in a while. That's when we really started to interview other people that corroborate the information. And, here on a lot of the upcoming episodes, they're just going to see David interviewing people without me because I have other projects that I'm working on. And we're in talks with Gaia right now about, doing another show to where I go through by myself, just me and the camera, and talk about everything that I talked about on Cosmic Disclosure, but in more detail. And we're thinking about, calling it Above Cosmic.
I like that. I think that would be really cool. I remember when you started talking about that, because I would be really interested in going through again, because I feel like you got into the public eye, you started talking about this, and now it's a little bit more refined, right? You've talked about it a lot more. You can hear what people are interested in, and you've had these conversations back and forth. You've gotten a flood of questions over the last couple of years that now I imagine if you were to go back and readdress your story, you would have it more hammered down. It's sort of like when you teach, you're gonna gain. Like I was a teacher, you gain a lot from teaching, and you can teach it better. So that I would love to watch a show like that. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, it's hasn't been greenlit. It's just it's we're talking about shooting a pilot and to see how it goes. It's not anything in stone. So, but also we got to match that with next year. We're planning basically a world tour to promote the book and hopefully promote Gaia. Gaia this month, I believe, now is publishing all of their information in Spanish on Gaia, and next they're going to do Portuguese. So that's going to open up a lot of area for touring and promoting. So
what the information that you just shared, I think, is a very important piece and gives transparency into this concept that, yes, you have a testimony, you're sharing that testimony, you've shared that testimony, now you want to go and you want to expand that out by making that testimony available across multiple platforms, be it through a comic book or a TV show, or touring the world and sharing that testimony.
Right. And in the process, I've gathered a lot of volunteers that are talented and well-placed in the industry. And, these people want to work for disclosure. They want to bring this information out. So we're trying to form a situation to where they don't have to work for these other places. They can work on this full time, be paid, and be able to support their families, but still working for the cause full time. So, there's a lot of criticism going out about, us commercializing disclosure, but, the way things have been done the last 70 years haven't worked. Just talking to people that have nuts and bolts information, it hasn't gotten us anywhere. It's a very important part of the overall message that we need to get to the overall public. So, information like what I'm delivering isn't hurting the secret space program narrative, it's assisting it. It's bringing more interest to it. It's not only bringing more interest to my story, but to other people's work, the nuts and bolts people that feel like they're being ignored right now. It's bringing more energy and attention to their work as well. So this is something that we should all be working together on to try to get the wider public interested in this subject, as well as making them realize, hey, there are technologies out there that could change my life, and then demand it. That's the only way it's going to come out.
Yeah, great answer. So let's do this. Let's talk about this allegation that this is just a marketing campaign to destroy secret space program research. That's exactly what you were just talking about. You might not even need to answer this because you might have just answered it. Let's see. May 25th, an interview with dark journalist and Bill Ryan. Disneyfication of I like that word, of the secret space program is crucial to the marketing campaign effort to attract millennials and young adults. This is clearly an attempt to co-opt important research subjects and to take investigative research into this black project and replace it with fantasy narratives. With Corey's Kids spreading his Blue Avian talking points and gearing up for the next phase of targeting the key demographic of teens.
So, yes, we are. This 3-year marketing campaign, I have no idea where they came up with. I think they may have, the update that I gave where Tier said within the next 3 years, us as a mass consciousness will be making our decision on what type of reality we want to live in.
Yes.
And that we had that short period to be able to obtain the optimal temporal reality. I think he took that and just like he did everything else, he took information and just pushed it together as hard as he could to make something out of it. We have never had any type of marketing campaign that we've written or talked about and put out. What we have talked about is that all of the vanguard, the older people in the ufology, they've pretty much done almost everything they can do. They're only reaching people, 35 to 80 years old. They're not interesting to the younger generation. So the younger generation is not getting this information as readily. So what you have to do, the younger generation is an entertain me generation. Older generation, they're just show me the information.
Right.
I'll just look at the information. That's all I need. Younger generation, they've got short attention spans. You got to get the information to them in an entertaining way. So yes, we've decided that millennials need to be inspired and empowered to work in this industry. And from everything that I've seen, all of the older people that have been in it for a while are very happy to see people like you and Jordan and the younger people coming in with enthusiasm.
Yeah.
So I really don't get the criticism.
Well, and there's also bunches of movies that I've seen and TV shows and things like that where it says it's based on a true story or a true narrative. And if you're really interested in the movie or the TV show, you watch it and then you see that and you want to go back and you want to research that.
Yeah.
So if you have this TV show or this comic book and it says based on the testimony by Goode, and people are like, wow, this is a really good piece. This is interesting material. They're going to go back and they're going to research more. And now what are they learning about? They're learning about the secret space program and these technologies.
Right.
So that's my 2 cents.
That's the intent.
So, okay. Yeah, and it, the whole concept of discrediting the secret space program or the real research into it, that just really doesn't make sense to me either, because it's expanding the content.
Yeah, there are people that have a certain narrative that they want to promote, and anything outside of that narrative, they just have to destroy. And there's also, there's a lot going on in the community right now with people trying to be divided or manipulated to where they don't accept certain information. This information coming out that's really big about Antarctica has caused a lot of waves, and especially the information about all the research, illegal research going on. That's what's really freaked out a lot in the Black Op field. So the more that I talk about these kinds of things, the harder they're going to come after me.
What illegal research?
Well, they have R&D labs there. They have like Lockheed Martin type companies that have, and I've just been told recently that what I have talked about is just the tip of the iceberg. That's why they're freaking out. There's all types of biological, chemical research being done down there, but there's also a lot of technical research and development being done. There's a major spaceport down there where they are launching to go up to space to service these space stations that they have in this, what I've been calling the lower space program.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's cool.
So that information is very sensitive to them. Me talking about the stuff that they're planning on coming out anyway, the stuff about the civilization that they found underneath, is not quite, that's not damaging their narrative. But the R&D labs that are down there, they're against the 1959 or whatever treaty for Antarctica. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty big deal.
What's the biological and chemical research? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, they're doing all different types of cloning, biological weapons. Everything that is completely illegal to do is being done down in Antarctica. It's a zone that's completely controlled. Only the military can fly over. Like in our conversation earlier, we just have to kind of imagine what's going on there, or rely on reports of scientists.
So now I wanted to ask you a question about cults. So the Dark Journalist, in a May 25th interview about 7 minutes in, this is a quote. Now, the participants in the Goode strategy are just young people trying to get involved in something meaningful. They have no idea they are pawns in the 3-year entertainment game that is meant to harvest the UFO and SSP community financially, emotionally, and even spiritually. At the Contact in the Desert event, strange banners started popping up claiming the next 3 years as the opportunity to navigate to the most optimal timeline, drawing on Goode's theme of raising our consciousness so we will get to UFO disclosure. This attempt to co-opt spiritual living memes sets the trap for the seeker to agree with Goode on these topics and ignore or go on faith with Goode's far-flung stories of being a galactic messenger of the blue avian aliens. This technique is also employed by cult leaders to establish rapport and gain trust. So just a really quick thing, Dark Journalist is a YouTuber who has made some videos asking, well, not asking at all, he's made some videos making some allegations against Corey Goode and what he has been doing and claiming.
Yeah,
so,
not based on any research, just hearsay and his own animosity towards me.
I would like to see what research he did.
Yeah, we would love to see any type of research that you have done.
That'd be awesome. So anyway, what's your response to the claim that you're trying to gain trust from the millennial masses to move in as a leader of the blue avian cult?
Yeah, I would really like someone to point out what type of activities I've done to create a cult. Every single thing I've done, the whole blue avian message has been, we don't need any new religions. Everyone's religion has all of these tenets in it. You know, do unto others as you'll have them do unto you. That's being service to others. This is not developing a cult meme. A cult tells everyone, I am the way and the truth. Only through me can you make it to your ascension or to heaven. And that has not been a part of my narrative from the beginning. My narrative has been that everyone has to use their discernment. Everyone has to go through their own spiritual growth process. We have to deal with our karma. We have to, forgive others, which is very hard, but forgiving ourselves for certain things, that's the hardest. Now, these are the tenets of many religions, especially Eastern religions. We are not calling anyone under any one banner or flag. We are calling them to stand up in their own truth, in their own power, to get off of their knees to these elite and stand in their own power. Because, we're slaves. So any type of information that I've put out about becoming service to others, becoming more loving, it is not drawing anyone towards any one cult or ideology. It's allowing them to use their already established ideologies and belief systems, focus on those positive things, and expand upon them.
So what I've researched recently in regard to all of these allegations coming out from the Dark Journalists and some from Bill Ryan as well, they talk mainly about the marketing for the new material that you're going to be developing. Right. So I think that it has more to do with questioning the getting the millennials involved, like I guess maybe speak to the business decision to go into the comic books and TV shows.
Trying to call, they're splitting hairs there. Are we doing the great sin of trying to commercialize some of this information to get it to the masses, to help the population understand that there are hidden technologies? Are we doing that? Or is there something more sinister occurring? You know a tree by its fruits. And the fruits of our labor have been nothing but teaching people to be more service to others, overcoming their own traumas so they can move on spiritually. A lot of these nuts and bolts people have problems with the whole ascension message. They believe that it's just a false narrative to give people false hope, just like every other religion. So, it's really hard for me to figure out how they see this as being some sort of a cult. Now, the business part, yes, we are a business markets to a certain demographic, and we're a comic book. That demographic is usually people between, I think it's in their mid-20s and, believe it or not, their 50s. Most of the people that buy comic books are in their late 40s and 50s. Are you the only
person in this, I guess, industry that has ever decided to do a comic book with relation to topics like the secret space program?
No, interestingly enough, I think the publisher was Hidden Hand or something strange like that. A comic book was done and agreed to by Bill Ryan, who's attacking me for doing a comic book on Serpo, something that is one of many different stories that have come across, Bill's desk that he put out there as truth and then went against, and then, is him and hauled on. But that the Project Serpo was turned into a graphic novel, and Bill Ryan even wrote the foreword to that graphic novel.
In your opinion, what is the value of a project like that, or any project like a comic book?
Well, Roger and I have talked about comic books were first developed as propaganda during like World War II time period. That's what they're really developed out. They are covertly using these types of tools to affect the mass consciousness of people. What we're wanting to do is overtly use these tools use the negative tools against them. Like money. Money is a negative thing, but you have to have money to continue on a mission. Yeah, the same goes with that topic.
Okay. So let's talk about a couple of what I'm calling elephants in the room. Because as I was doing this research, I had two really big things come up. So let's talk about the concept of you being blacklisted. This is talked about a lot.
Oh, from the IT industry?
From the IT industry, yeah. So you mentioned losing your job over your name being publicized. And can you tell us a little bit about how that prevented you from remaining that industry, and then how that to this day still affects you, if
Absolutely. Well, even more now that I have done a show, it's even more out there, but there's a process you go through when you hire on with any major firm to do IT work. They do a background search, a social media search, and a Google search on you. If you ping as being a person that talks with aliens, says they've been to outer space, or talks to 8-foot-tall blue birds, they are not letting you anywhere near their billion-dollar data. They're just not. True, I could go back and get a job doing like help desk work, making like, $16-18 an hour, like how I first started over 20 years ago. But, that's going to put me working, again, like 45, 50 hours a week and have no time to get this information out.
Gotcha. So even working like freelance, you're just thinking wouldn't be...
No, and that's what I did a lot. People, talk a lot about, Corey was not in the IT field. Then Dr. Sala did some actual journalism and showed that I did work in the IT field, and then they're picking at other things. I worked in the IT field for 20 years, and at the end of 20 years, just about everyone, if they have the certifications and the experience, which you do after 20 years, you start making in the six-figure range. So a long time ago when I did a lot of contracting, and I would, one time I accidentally, instead of my check, I received the bill that they were sending to where I was working, the contracting firm. And I saw they were paying me, I think at the time I was getting paid like $32 an hour, but they were charging like $80 an hour for me. So I figured, why not cut out the middleman? So I started doing contract work, and I would charge anywhere from $65, $90 to even $120 an hour sometimes. I had other people in the industry that did different things because I specialized. I didn't have a wide, super range, I didn't know Linux and I didn't know all these other things, but I pooled with other professionals and we worked together. So, I did have a lucrative career in the IT field. It would be even stronger right now if I was still in, because I was at the point where I was really, starting to make good money and being able to provide for my family.
And you have a bachelor's degree in religion and...
I did not finish.
Oh, okay.
I was a religion major, psychology minor at Southern Nazarene University. I was actually going into the ministry, trying to follow my grandfather's footsteps. So, I left my third year there, met Stacy, and we left school. I became kind of disillusioned. I was in class a lot of the times. The professor would be talking, and the kids were sitting there writing it down, And I'd be like, wait a minute. And I'd raise my hand and I'd ask a question that would embarrass him because he would have to explain it. And a lot of times he couldn't explain, different things about religion and how it's applied in the church and all that. Finally, the Doctrine of Holiness professor and another professor pulled me into their office. And they said, do you see those two books? And I looked up, and it was a Nazarene Handbook and the Holy Bible. And they said, do you or do you not believe that only through those two books can you get to heaven? And I said, absolutely not. And they told me, you are not cut out to, be a Nazarene minister. We're dropping you from the religion major group. You can find another major. So after that, I was pretty disillusioned, and we moved to Dallas, got married, and we went to church, fairly often up until a couple years ago.
And how did you get into IT after that?
Yeah, after I didn't know what I was going to do after I left school, and I didn't even know how to type. I had one of our roommates had one of these old box Macintoshes. They had a typing program that taught you how to type. So I learned how to type off of that. And I didn't know anything about computers. So one of our good friends came over, took a computer apart, told me all about it, helped me put it back together, and started teaching me from the ground up. And then I studied, went and got my A+ certification, which is an industry standard certification, mainly hardware. I received that certification, and I was working at Stream International doing help desk stuff. I didn't know anything about computers. So I went through that whole process of, I self-taught myself, got my MCSE, Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer certification. And I got that certification. Everyone that had that certification was making big bucks. And I got the certification right when they started outsourcing all of our jobs to India. So people see me. I was in an article where I was protesting my job being sent to India. That's out there. People brought that up as well.
Okay.
But I worked my way up after through 20 years, doing a lot of contracting, going like 3 months here, 6 months there, doing jobs, and that exposed me to a lot of different environments and a lot of different technologies within Microsoft networking.
Okay.
And Citrix and VMware.
Okay, great. So I worked for a company that was created by Citrix, actually.
Oh yeah, which one?
Appfolio.
Oh, okay, I'm not familiar with it.
It's an accounting software.
Oh, okay. Like ADP kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so elephant in the room number 2. You ready for it? This is what I was thinking. This is just my thoughts. So you were outed into the public eye and then criticized for going into the public eye with your story.
By the same people.
So what's up with that?
Doesn't make sense. There's so much hypocrisy in all of these attacks, like with the comic book, the hypocrisy, if we lined it all up, would be, pretty amazing. I've been, most of these people are accusing me of stuff that they're allegedly doing, which is human nature.
How did that make you feel, though, when that started to come out about you being criticized for being in the public eye by the same people that outed you? Like, how did that... Those people are such a noisy... They're just a noisy minority of most of the people out there that are listening to this information. So I treated it that way. David Wilcock gave me the advice to, ignore it. In 2015, there were these huge forum wars to where Bill Ryan's first attempt to come out, and I think his ex-wife told me he's obsessed with you and he's going to destroy you if it's the last thing he does, or something like that. That was like 2 years ago. Huh. So there was that big 2015 attempt to discredit me and bring me down, and this is just the latest one. And every single person that has attacked me, just about every single one of them have a membership on Project Avalon. We could do a nice little chart. Any of the others are people that Project Avalon members have gaslit
to get upset and jump on the bandwagon. It all roads lead back to Bill Ryan and Project Avalon, which he's been using as a group to gang stalk me for some time, but especially over the last month or so. Him and the Dark Journalist and a few others have coordinated. It's a huge coordinated attack. They try to say it's not coordinated, it's an organic movement for truth, you know.
Right.
But I've seen emails, all types of collusion going on about how they're going to assassinate my brand, how they're going to destroy any business I have. They were real triggered about the ancient aliens appearance. They said, you know, some of these emails where people were talking about they wanted it, after people see him in Ancient Aliens and they Google him, you know, they want to put out information to where bad information pops up. Mm-hmm. So there were all these plans. And I was hearing a lot of this before Contact in the Desert. So that's why I was so paranoid.
Yeah.
I was incredibly paranoid at Contact in the Desert. I didn't know. And we had people that we thought were somewhat close to us that were turning on us. So then it makes you a little leery of the people that you already have concerns about.
Well, and it's interesting too, seeing, because this is all some of this stuff is very new to me with the Corey's Kids thing that was created by the Dark Journalist, and he would never say any of our names without first saying Corey's kid, Teresa Yannaris. And so it was this hitting you over the head with the same thing, repetition, so that it would catch. Right. And people, it's funny now because
that's what the Nazis would do. It's the big lie theory. You repeat a big lie enough, and only that big lie, then the masses start to believe it.
And people think now, some people actually think we created that term. They're saying, "Oh, you're part of Corey's Kids crew." I'm like, no. We didn't create that term. That is not our term.
Yeah. It was invented by this person, the Dark Journalist,
right,
who has a marketing background. He accuses us of being cult, trying to bring a cult together, but he's like had articles in his magazine about
cult marketing specifically.
Yeah. You know, so it's very obvious to most of us, you know, what he's been doing. You know, he gets on the camera and talks all snidely. And, you know, it's just a very weird energy, and that's something I've been noticing is that people with these high energy influxes and changes. What I've been saying all along. The good are becoming better, the bad are becoming worse, and the crazy are becoming crazier. It's really happening. We're seeing it before our eyes. And a lot of people that deal with a lot of traumas or have a lot of negative polarity issues they're dealing with, they're being pulled in that direction by these energies. Everyone's revealing themselves. They're being pulled over to, you know, places like Project Avalon. People that are service to others and really wanting to make this reality a better place for all of us are gravitating towards the positive message and trying to be service to others and help people instead of tearing them down.
There's this whole concept that you have creators and then you have destroyers, and you can be focused on creating goodness and putting good content and a good message out into the world, and you're aligning yourself with energies that are going to help you do that even more. And then, or you can align yourself with destruction, and it's to me it seems sort of like a waste of good energy, where it's like you have a soul contract, you're here for a reason, and is that reason really to like the energies associated with the destruction of other people's creations, just sitting there saying, oh well, this creation's a bad creation, or just being critiquing it,
and it's really all out of either jealousy or people their truth. We've been hearing that some people, you know, telling these complete lies and fabrications and saying, I'm telling you my truth, you know.
Something that's interesting too is that it's like you haven't even had a chance to put these projects out into the world yet. Like you announced these projects, and then it was just like, take this. It's like, can we just? My first initial reaction.
Who knows if they will fail or even work? Give it a chance to sink or swim. You know?
Yeah, that was my very first thought. I'm thinking, well, wow, that's kind of crazy to me because you haven't even had a chance to publish the book, to get the comic book out there, to any of this stuff. It's all brand new. You announce and you're excited about it. Right. And instead of people saying, okay, well, even if they're against you or don't agree with you or believe your story, they could just say, okay, well, and then move on with their projects or whatever they're doing to create and add into this collective, instead of spending all their time. And that's what makes me think that it is a coordinated attack?
Oh, it is, yeah. Well, and there are a lot of people that they've rationalized a lot of really dark behavior. A lot of people in the light community there's a few that have been spreading vicious, horrible lies and rumors about Stacey and I, our personal life, that it's really, it's upset my wife, my daughter, and me. It's really bad. But these people call themselves light workers. So some of these people that call themselves light workers are rationalizing a lot of dark behavior. I've also talked to some of the people that are rationalizing, that call themselves truthers, but are rationalizing telling lies about me. And when I ask them, how is it that you can knowingly go out and spread disinfo about me and call this some sort of fight for the truth? And some of them have actually told me that it is authorized because since they believe I'm a liar, and since they believe that my information is hurting people, then therefore they are authorized to use the same methods against me. Therefore, since they believe I'm a liar, they are authorized as truthers to lie about me, to discredit me, so that their truth can rise to the top. That's what this has actually been from conversations.
How could your testimony harm people?
I really don't know. I mean, they're, I guess becoming more service to others is, pretty scary to some people. But, I mean, there are people, in this community, there are a lot of people who don't want to talk about it. There are more than you find out in public. A large number of people that have not just personality distortions, but mental issues. So, that's a part of the equation as well. And especially if these big major energy changes, they're being triggered by these energies, and they're acting out, and their strange behaviors becoming more evident.
When I think about that, the concept of your testimony harming the industry or something, I can see from their perspective, some people's perspective, where it's like, okay, this concept of a blue alien might make some people that don't know anything about the secret space program go, oh, well, that's obviously, none of that's true because that's just so wild or whatever. But I see it more like separated, where you have research that can be corroborated that other people are also talking about. And then you have things that are a little bit out there. I mean, it's all out there. Yeah. And then that can't be corroborated, where it's just like, okay, but you just got to hold that over here and gain more data. You still haven't, don't make up your mind on it yet. And all of this, though, I have to say, in support of you, you're releasing it in the entertainment industry.
Right.
So with that being said, anyone that's going to go and they're watching a TV show that's presented as, I don't know, I mean, this is all speculation because the TV show doesn't even exist, but if it's presented as science fiction, then people are going to enjoy that for it being science fiction, and then it's based on a true story. They can go and they can look at the information. So it's not that you're releasing a movie saying this is all 100 million% true, although that is what you say about your testimony, but you're going into the entertainment industry with it.
Right.
So there's that level of people are going to watch it because it's enjoyable, it's entertaining.
You have to make it entertaining and enjoyable for it to be successful. And, Cosmic Disclosure has been very successful, and it was just two guys sitting with a fake brick wall behind them, talking in sort of like a briefing. Mm-hmm. Very simple, but it's entertaining. I know there are a good number of people that watch the show that don't believe a word of it, but the information's getting into their subconscious. I've had people come up to me at conferences and say, I don't believe a word you're saying, but it is the most interesting stuff I've ever seen, or whatever. And that doesn't hurt my feelings. It's just like, there's people been out there that have, poo-pooed me or got on the poo-poo Corey train that have said some things. And I don't have any animosity. I'll work with those people tomorrow. It hasn't affected me, But, these deep attacks that are rooted, that all go back really to Bill Ryan and Avalon, though that's an annoyance that I would like to see go away. But from what I hear, he's going to be cursing me in his dying breath. I'm told that he blames me also for his marriage ending, which is very unfortunate. It was during the time that all of the unpleasantness was happening. When I first came out, Christine was telling me, he's trying to trigger you, he's manipulating you, he's trying to make you blow up and look bad in public. He's obsessed with you, And then it was weeks later, she contacts me and she's, freaking out that she said she had to vacate the house because, he threatened to kill her because he was so triggered over all this. So, and she wasn't really, I don't know what was going on, but she was trying to ground him and say, Corey's not that bad or something like that. And that's when he, tripped out, flipped out on her. And apparently it scared her so badly that the next time he went into town, she packed up and I guess took half the gold out of the safe, according to Bill, and left because she was scared. So there was for some reason I guess he was triggered because of me when that happened. That's just what I've been told by some people from Avalon that have contacted me quietly, is that he has a lot of animosity towards me about that as well. Well,
it sounds like in the last couple of years there have been a lot of things that have happened around you and to you and involving you that have been some good, some bad. And I'm hoping that this interview now can be some energetic closure for you for some of the things that have happened in the past, helping give new energy and light into the projects that you're actively working on now, so that we can get some space in between and get some positive creation out there and get some of those new energies flowing.
Yeah, all of this is, it's affected things. A lot of people, like I said, had a knee-jerk reaction to that Satanism baloney that they put out and withdrew, including some team members. Some of them withdrew just because of all the negativity around. So, and us dealing with the negativity, it's knocked off about a month of our creativity and productivity. We're really behind on a lot of things. So this is going to be my last word on it. And then we're just moving on, and we're ignoring that small, noisy minority that are bringing up all of these lies. I think people are going to see them for what they are. Anyone that spent time with us at these conferences or retreats, they know that it is absolute bunk.
Mm-hmm. Yes. All right, let's get through this. So now we're going to talk about how you got into this and how you are supported. So the allegations are you are a pathological liar, you're a government plant, and you built your testimony off of other people's stories. So let's see. May 29th interview with dark journalist and Bill Ryan, a minute and 29 in. Bill Ryan says that you're a pathological liar. There are others who claim to have gone to high school with you that say you were a pathological liar in high school, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to respond to this claim.
That's this same person that claims to have gone to high school with me that Bill keeps bringing up. Did not go to my high school. They first approached me saying, I went to high school with you. And they had the wrong state, or the wrong city, the wrong state, the wrong school. Nothing was right. And I've challenged that person, show me a yearbook with your photo in it and your name in it and my face being in the same yearbook, and we'll talk. And they digress every time. None of their information matches. And they're spreading around that I was a bully and all this, but I was a head shorter than everyone. I was kicked out of junior highs and high schools, and it was for fighting. And my nickname was Kickin' Ass Corey, because I was this little scrawny guy, about a head shorter than everyone else. And the bullies would come and try to mess with me, and I grew up in such, obviously, a crazy environment and had training that I wouldn't do the back and forth bully stuff. If I saw I was about to get my butt kicked by a bully, I would strike first, and was usually justified. But this person, this lady, I think it's Nikki, I can't remember, that's claiming that they went to high school with me. It's a total fabrication. It's something that this person said that they've been in contact with a dark journalist and told them everything. And I was like, okay. You went to the person telling lies about me and gave them more lies. So what?
Okay. Stupid. Okay, let's see.
Well, this person also seems to pop up. There's this another lady that contacts me all the time saying that I'm her real son that was kidnapped from her when I was an infant. And she's convinced of it, and she has her family convinced of it, and I've received emails from them. So there's a whole lot of weird stuff like that happens.
Oh, okay. So
I wouldn't doubt if they contact Dark Journalist next, and he'll be Corey's real mom goes on the record.
Whistleblower of truth.
Yeah.
Corey's real mom.
Truth in 2017. Is that what?
Oh, I don't know. That's funny. Okay.
Go for truth.
Bill Ryan, in an interview on May 7th with Dark Journalist, says that one of the Project Avalon IT administrators, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this name correct, if it's even a real name, Ili Pandya, after having firsthand experience of your claimed IT experience, said something does not add up. He is not an IT expert. Can you tell us why he might have said that, what he was referring to, and can you tell us about your interaction with him? I know you've already provided documentation online that has proved your certifications, but I'm more so interested in understanding about the interaction with this guy.
I've never known what exchange they're talking about.
Oh, okay.
It was just something, I guess, in general conversations I had with people. I don't even remember this, so I'm trying to speculate.
Oh, okay.
General conversations I had with somebody. People in the IT industry are real catty. People that do, that are all into...
it must be the only industry where they're catty.
It must be. People that are like Unix administrators. Oh, Unix is the best. Everyone that does Microsoft, is just stupid. Microsoft people are, it's that way. And someone that's really versed in Unix would talk to a person that's really versed in, the Microsoft platform. And, they're going to be like, well, this is my way is so much more efficient. And that's just the way it is. That's the way it's always been for 20 years that I've been in. So that might have something to contribute to it. The person may have just had a beef with me. I don't know where that came from. But for Bill Ryan to assert Corey faked his IT career, it's not real, based on hearsay from someone in his forum, and then going out to the public and spitting it out as though it is a fact that he's verified and researched, is irresponsible. It's disinformation, pure and simple.
Okay, so we'll move on from that. Borrowed testimony. So can you speak a little bit about that? Bill Ryan's claim that you borrowed testimony from particularly Michael Relf in the year 2000. There was a book called, or an account called The Mars Records? Right.
When I first started, and this is very interesting because I think I have this documented as well, conversations I had with Bill Ryan, and I first started sharing my testimony with him, it was like just before I started doing Cosmic Disclosure and all that. He said, have you read this book? And I said, no. So he sent me a PDF of it. And I started looking through it, and it was all of these Scientology sessions and stuff. I would read through it, and there would be like some little bits of like I was on Mars or something. It was not coherent for me. I looked through it, and I just tossed it aside. So no, I did not data mine that document for my information. It was after I had given Bill Ryan my information that he shared that with me. And of course, I could see his affinity for it since he is majorly into Scientology, and that testimony was gleaned from, I can't remember the type of what they call the sessions, the Scientology sessions, where they use all these different instruments and techniques to help you recall memories and stuff.
Okay. So, let's see. Criticism, the next section is criticism about conduct. So the first one is, why don't you take a test to prove you're telling the truth? We'll break these down in a second. Your family threatened Bill Ryan, leave the more fantastical claims out of your testimony, and your testimony has no journalistic value. So the first one, why don't you take a test to prove you're telling the truth, whether it be a polygraph or do a hypnotic regression?
Well, as far as the hypnotic regression, the regressive work could bring out a lot of the information that the Maya suppressed, because when I had a detached retina, and it took them 3 surgeries to get it back on. When I went in, the surgeon looked at my eye and he said, your retina is like a canned tomato. He said, we can't hardly get it back together. He says, and other aspects of it, it looks like astronaut's eye. So, they had to do 3 surgeries to get it attached again. And the trauma of having needles stuck in my eye and all the things, it brought all of my memories from all 320 and backs and different things I was forced to take part in. I brought all those memories back, and there were a lot of extremely dark memories, and I was literally suicidal. It was really bad. And the Mayans came and they suppressed those memories, and they need to be kept suppressed. Now, as far as a lie detector test, when we've talked about doing it for the show and a couple things. That's something that we're kicking around. At someone like myself that has been put through so many different testing, I can't even the doctor can't check my blood pressure without it shooting through the roof. When we were trying to figure out if I had PTSD or some sort of seizure disorder a long time ago, I had to go into a sleep clinic to where they had electrodes on my head, and they were having problems with getting good readings and all that because I had such a high anxiety, like white coat syndrome of being, approached by people in white coats, attaching things to me. So we'll have to do it in an environment where I am not triggered. That's something we've talked about. Now, it is everyone that has spent time with me throughout this last 2 years, they understand that I'm not lying. I am telling the truth as I know it, as I believe it to be. There have been, they've done a lot of reverse speech on me, found nothing that was deceptive. Recently, I can't remember her name, it's a really cool channel that does body language. She had many people asking her, do body language on Corey Goode. We want to know if he's telling the truth. She did body language, a study on me, and at the end she said, I'm not saying ETs are real, I'm saying this guy believes what he's saying. So, if I took a lie detector test and I pass it, a lot of the people are out there, what they're going to do is they're just going to say, he may have had a tacking issue. He is a trained operative. Trained operatives spend time hooked up to those machines, learning how to deceive them. That's the next round that's going to come out.
So you're basically saying, why bother waste the energy going down that path when I have better things to do with my time?
Right. Yeah, and, I think there's enough information out there where people can decide whether, I'm being a pathological liar or if I'm telling something that I really believe. Now, whether you believe I'm mind controlled, these memories are implanted, whatever you believe, you need to kind of change your theory a little bit from me being an active liar to telling something that I really believe to be true, and then decide whether or not the information I believe to be true is true for yourself.
So you're basically saying, really, the weight would lie more on me being mind controlled than it would be on me lying, because so many people have already said that you're not lying based on reverse speech and the body language and that kind of stuff.
Right.
As far as the Mayans coming to suppress your memories, when exactly did that happen again? That was in 2016?
That was before I was even on Cosmic Disclosure.
Okay.
Yeah, I was, I had gotten injured on the job, and I'd had a detached retina right around the same time period, and ended up losing my job. We had to move out of the apartment we were in. We were about to be evicted. So we moved into my parents' house for a couple of years while I was going through all of the recovery, or some of the recovery. So, living with, we had to live with my parents for a while, and that was, actually, it was at my mom's, and my mom and stepdad's house. I was in the living room. They were appearing. It was the first time I met Gonzalez. I didn't know who he was. He didn't know who I was. He was just instructing me what was going on. And that's when, in your interview with Stacy, she talked about, she came out of the back room, walked in, and was like, what is this? I'm not seeing this. This isn't happening.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that. If you want to hear Stacy's perspective on that, you can check out her video on my channel as well. So, interesting. So that's when they came and they suppressed those painful memories that you had, and you're not ready. You don't want to walk down that again. That's why you went through the regression.
No, it was it was a very dark time. You know, a lot of people that have been in these programs, a lot of the reason they don't want to talk is because they don't want to self-incriminate themselves. They have been forced to do a lot of really dark things. Forced, they will either kill you or your family or, any number of things. So, yeah, there are things that I was forced to be involved with that I'm still trying to forgive myself for and trying to process. So, this is something that I have to handle carefully.
In a natural way. Okay. Threats toward Bill Ryan. Apparently, on May 13th, 15 minutes into an interview with dark journalist and Bill Ryan, Stacey Goode was upset with Bill Ryan over a small grievance, which he never even discusses what that grievance was, and I couldn't find anything online discussing the grievance.
The grievance, for the record, was it was over the entity attachment and using Jesus' name thing. That's where the disagreement happened. And then the disagreement happened because of his Scientology beliefs against my Christian beliefs. Stacey has the same Christian beliefs. He started coming out real hard on me in the forum about the Christian beliefs and about how, this is the way entity attachments work and all that. We disagreed. Stacey mentioned that or talked about it was his Scientology belief system. Even though he practices something called freeform Scientology, he insists, I am not a Scientologist. I am not a Scientologist. But that's like, you were Catholic, I was Protestant, but we're both Christian, right? It's splitting hairs and semantics. So that's where the big, that big battle happened, and that's what he's referring to.
Wasn't there also an interview that you had done where you had talked about that and he wanted to take that information out of the interview?
Yes.
So there were two things. He wanted to take that information out of the interview that you were potentially going to go public with, not with your name on it.
The second interview
I
did with Christine Anderson.
Okay.
That's when I talked about using the name of Jesus to get rid of the entity attachments.
Okay.
And he went through the roof on that. He was not going to put that on his channel.
Was that the first time that you guys disagreed on something? Was that kind of the...
Yes. That's when everything went south. And if you look at his history, we can put a list up of all of these people, Atticus and all these people through Project Avalon, to where he's come out and said, this person's a real deal. This is really good information. And then he has some sort of just minor personality kind of conflict with, and then he comes out against him with both barrels. And it's, if we look back at the records of what Carrie Cassidy said about why they broke up, there were two of their whistleblowers that he started coming out against and was calling frauds when she says they weren't. But he got triggered somehow against them, so anyone that he disagrees with or is triggered against, he has to destroy.
Okay. So... no journalistic value. So he says in the same interview, 1 hour in, this work he's getting into with Goode doesn't have any academic or journalistic value and really looks more like a circus with the comic books and everything else. So what's your response to the claim that your work has no journalistic value?
Well, we were talking about this earlier. What is journalism?
Well, it's basically bringing news out. So reporting on news.
Right. So a person coming forward, giving a lot of information about a secret space program, hidden technologies, the need for us to grow spiritually, which every ET experience that people have reported, what are the two things they say? Release suppressed technologies and then grow spiritually or become more, spiritual. Those are the two things that all the aliens that have contacted us are asking us to do. That's what we're trying to do. And as far as the comic books, we already mentioned.
Right. We've kind of beat that horse.
That's just ridiculous.
So let's talk a little bit about the Linda Moulton Howe situation. Right. So after claiming that, so you came out during Contact in the Desert, you said that she was a name on the project, and then she...
Right. Well, what had happened is the night before, up until 1, we were doing the slides, and we were talking about how Linda Moulton Howe, we were discussing with her writing the foreword, and she was very excited about partaking in it. And, somehow it ended up on the slide, Linda Moulton Howe, and Dr. Sala's name was left off. And it was kind of embarrassing that slide popped up. But in the announcement, and when the video comes out on the internet, people will see, I'm talking about people involved, not being authors. And I say, I see Linda Moulton Howe on the slide, and I'm surprised, and I said, oh, and Linda Moulton Howe might be involved.
Okay.
That's what I said. And then people took photos of the slide and sent them into the dark journalist.
Oh, okay.
The dark journalist basically gaslit Linda Moulton Howe. He contacted her, said, these people are Satanists, they're saying that they're working with you, they say that you're writing a book. No, she's like, no, I'm not writing a book. Well, they're saying you're writing a book, just totally manipulated and gaslit her. And she's a strong Christian, kind of like I am. And when she saw all of the video that he made calling Roger a Satanist, she just had like a knee-jerk reaction and pulled out, and didn't pull out in a very graceful way, sadly.
So let's talk a little bit about Roger Richards, who's one of your business associates.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you met him and how you guys started working together?
Yes. Originally, when we started the Full Disclosure Project about a year ago, he wrote in and said he wanted to help. He also had sent in, I wanted to do a bunch of roadside advertising, to where it talked about there's suppressed technologies that could save your life and stuff like that, to kind of promote out that advanced technologies exist and the normal person can see it and think about it. And he sent in some really cool ideas on billboards, and he was writing in as Emma Gold, and in my mind it was a girl. I thought it was a girl. And he has a really interesting business, to where he's helping his business is awesome. He's a cottage industry business that like people in India that do crafts, and that's a dying art. He found a way to find people in the West that want to buy these things. So it keeps the art alive, and it allows people to be able to survive financially while selling their arts and crafts to boutiques. And he's done a lot of work with, the child slave labor and women's rights. He's heavily into that. He's got a documentary that's about to come out. Back when I was a religion major, I worked a little bit with a guy that was in something called Probe Ministries. They investigated cults. So I actually sat there next to other religion majors, and we interviewed real Satanists and talked to real Satanists to get information about it, to know how to counsel them later on. So I know the energy, the look. I know a real Satanist when I see one, and there's every bit of the energy that comes from him is very loving and caring, and that characterization was based off of a tattoo.
That's so interesting that that synchronicity between where you were going to follow in your grandfather's footsteps, and then now here you are, and you have this Blue Avian message, and it's like you're really working toward spiritual truth. And
yeah,
that's really interesting.
Yeah, but Roger's a really good guy, and when all this came out, it really hurt him deeply. He even offered to resign and all of these things, and I said, no way. When he was just a username until I met him at Mount Shasta in 2016.
Okay.
That's the first time I met him. And we hit it off great. I told him I wanted to do a vlog. He said he would help me edit it, because I don't know the first thing about editing stuff. He's going to teach me that as well. And he started editing my vlog, and I was talking to him about this graphic novel idea that really one of the other people on my team, Cam, really came up with the idea about, that it would be a good way to get the information out. And then I brought that to him, and he's a doer. And he got to work putting teams together, and the rest is history. We work well together. We're a very good team. So I can see why certain people would want to split us up. But a lot of the stuff, almost all of it that's out there being said, some of the recent testimony about his business practices, they're not telling the truth. We've got the emails as well on it. We've showed them to Justin and a few people. It doesn't match up with the claims that are being made from people that are going on the dark journalists who happen to be members of Project Avalon that are spreading these lies.
Well, I work with you and Roger, and I love working with both of you guys. So, and I already went on the record and talked about how professional it was. So, and that, my friends. Oh, one last allegation, and then we get to the fun stuff, the viewer questions. Can you talk a little bit about the occult symbolism drama with the hand signal and the blue avian?
The blue avians. Boy, they did an interesting job of putting Baphomet next to the blue avian and trying to say that it was a Luciferian or satanic image. And if they had spent, once again, done any journalistic research, if they would have gone online and not just said, I want this to be Satanist, boom, 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 look up Baphomet, put the blue avian next to it. Well, if they would have done what we're going to do right now, go online, look up hand signs and art and all of this, they're going to see the same hand sign used over and over and over in art of Jesus. The blue avian message of being service to others is very much like do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. This is a very Christian-like message. So in a marketing way, they were trying to tie it to Satanism to give people that are love and light type people, to make them have that visceral reaction, and it worked. You know, they have a lot of experience in marketing, so they knew how to put that together in a way that would manipulate minds.
Who created that drawing?
The blue alien?
Yeah.
The blue avian?
Yes.
That was Android Jones. And he did that in 2015 at Gaia, when we were all sitting in a boardroom. I think I had the animation of it actually being drawn that we can show as well.
Whose decision was it to put the hand signal in the drawing?
Well, it was, as I was describing to him, how they would hold their hand up and do these different hand signals and do their lips like this as they were connecting to us. That when I held my hand up, I was doing that. And so he incorporated it into the drawing. So
you've actually seen the blue avians hold up their hand like that?
Yes.
Did you ask them, or do you know why they would particularly make that hand signal?
It's not just, that is one of the hand signals. It is an interesting way they will communicate. They'll sit there, and it's as if they're trying to talk because their mouth is doing kind of like that. But they're with one hand, they'll be doing like motions and hand signals. Maybe they're half Italian, I don't know. But you know, they use a hand signals, and that happened to be one I was showing while he was drawing. But if you put the picture next to Baphomet, the thing that's doing like this is pointed down, and all the ones of Jesus, it's pointing up. So that them trying to say that it was a satanic image was really reaching really far.
Okay. Alrighty. So, thank you for all that. Thank you for clearing some of that stuff up. I hope. Do you feel better about? Is there anything else that you feel like you haven't touched on that you wanted to discuss as far as allegations?
No, you know, I think everyone out there, you know, I guess people are tired of hearing use your own discernment. You know, that's what I've been saying from the beginning. But if energetically you are drawn to the information that Bill Ryan and the dark journalists are putting out, then more power to you. If you are drawn to the more spiritual ascension type information and trying to make reality a better place, then more power to you. Now, like I said, there's something about these energetic changes that are pulling us and making us reveal our true natures. So I think many people can take this an opportunity to look at how they responded to this disinfo campaign, this smear campaign. You know, use it as a mirror. What triggered you to make you fall for it or jump on board with it? And, you know, until we all start to work on those little things about ourselves, we're not going to move on spiritually or intellectually. You're always going to be stuck. So, you know, I've kind of been forced to deal with a lot of things. You know, I told you, you know, Kari said there were two major things I had to deal with were some issues with my marriage and with my father. And in recent times, catalysts forced me to deal with long issues that needed to be dealt with in my marriage. And I hadn't spoken with my dad in 6 years. And a situation popped up to where I was able to have a meeting with him. And we were able to come together and, in a very loving way, forgive each other and move on, which was very healing for me. This just happened right after Father's Day this year. So, those have been major things for me spiritually to move on. And people that are jealous of me talking to beings or whatever, they're not listening very closely to what's happening, because I'm not getting patted on the back or told that I'm some sort of messiah figure. They're sitting out they're constantly pointing out all my flaws. I'm like, pat me on the back every once in a while, guys. The last big one was that, as an INFJ, and the trauma I had as a child, being very intuitive, I could read people, and I couldn't control my environment unless I manipulated it. And at a young age, I started becoming manipulative. And they pointed out to me that my manipulations had caused damage to other people's free will quite a bit, and showed me examples of it, and it just made me sick. And it was something that I've been dealing with that for about 6 months now, trying to fully understand that and make sure it's no longer personality distortion of mine. So, we've all got to do that work. Or if we focus on other people, on information that goes against our truth, and just do battle with that information, then, we're not going to evolve.
So yes, thank you to everybody for your support and sending in your questions. And I poured through over 200 of them. Actually, I poured through all of them, but there were over 200 of them. And I pulled out just a few of them. Obviously we can't ask you all of them, but if you ever have an extra 5 hours of time, we can jump on a call. Yeah. I mean, we could even do something where we do viewer questions here and there if you're interested in something like that, because there are lots of questions, lots of really good ones.
Yes. And when some of the cosmic disclosures that have been the Q&A episodes, viewer Q&A, have been the most popular. And it seems like one of the most popular things is I usually give a talk, and then afterwards I do a Q&A. So yeah, there seems to be a lot of questions. Yes,
there's a lot of information that you cover, and I think it's interesting too to get these questions, because for me, I've watched the majority of Cosmic Disclosure, not in the last 6 months just because of everything that's going on, but to see where people are at within your testimony based on the questions that they're asking. It's cool. So let's see. Do you have knowledge of interference attacks, in parentheses, specifically being orchestrated, triggered via individuals, groups, in parentheses, channeling influence, monarch, Manchurian, non-human interference? And if you have, what methods do you recommend to help those who may be unaware of this happening in the community or within themselves?
Yeah, it's a really big problem. It's something that since I guess this organized campaign to attack us occurred, we started receiving also very energetic attacks. People, I don't know if it's people with voodoo dolls and pens, hiding in their closet, jabbing, but we've had a lot of that type of stuff happen. Recognizing it can be a little bit difficult. You have to do a lot of meditation and really look at a situation to see if it's really your own karma that you don't want to admit to, or if it is a negative greeting, as they say, or if it is an actual attack by the enemy. Those that, there's no one quick fix for people to deal with these attacks, because every person is energetically, psychically different, and they use different methods. People can be taught a foundation of how to protect themselves. As a matter of fact, I've been talking with Gerald O'Donnell a little bit about developing not only some of his RV course, but also he's been working on like a spiritual protection type course. I've been speaking with him to see if we can work together on that, because there are a lot of questions out there, and And a lot of people are being told to, if you need to become a psychic warrior, come to this workshop. We'll teach you how. And they'll charge like $8,000, and people will go and they'll spend this time and they try to teach them this cookie cutter method that may work for some people, but not everyone. So when it comes to defending yourself against psychic attacks, once you identify it as a psychic attack or some sort of energetic attack, your defense method is going to be different than mine or someone else's. It's just fine-tuning that method is the most important thing.
And a comment on that too would be, if you've gone to any of these courses or you've watched any of these videos or read books on how to protect yourself, you can learn that methodology that might be cookie cutter, and then you learn it and then you expand and grow on it, which is a lot of how martial arts works.
Right.
Where you learn
you take in the method and make the method your own.
Yes, exactly. Cool. Let's see. I thought this was a really interesting question. So your friend Kari from the Inner Earth has always enjoyed. This is Eric asked this question. So the question is, so it's the blue avian contact that Corey has, Ra Tier Air. Not sure if that's spelled correctly. Begins her name with Ra, which in the Law of One, they say that Ra is the group consciousness, and then Tier Air is the representative in the individual form. So the question is, wondering if the same concept applies to Kari.
Mm-hmm. Wow. This is something that I just recently spoke with David Wilcock about. Yes. I have used the full name Kari on purpose to see who is telling me the truth about contact when they approach me. Ka is part of the name. She has me call her Ari. I don't call her Kari. It's Ari from the house of Ka. Her sister, her name starts with Ka, but it means that they're from the house of Ka, is what it means. So that's the first time anyone's asked that question, and I've been purposefully keeping it out of the public eye.
Interesting. All right, Eric, you're very astute.
Very good. I just told David Wilcock that one not even 2 or 3 days ago.
Interesting. Synchronicity. Yeah. That's really cool. So it's like a last name, but it's like a first last name.
It's kind of like a designation, like, she's the lineage of the house of Ka, whatever that means.
Okay, cool. So let's see. This is really fun. Okay. This question comes from Jonathan, and he says, if the ascension of frequencies is a normal cosmic event, some of those who are already at a higher frequency must have observed this phenomenon in the past. Have you pursued questioning them to be more specific on what to expect and when? It seems like the information coming out is pretty sparse and even vague, and yet it sounds like it would be the most profound occurrence in recorded history. Mm-hmm. So has it happened to any of the other beings before?
Yes. Yes, it happens all throughout the cosmos.
And have they talked about it, I guess?
I have given information on Mika's people. They most recently went through that process, not only of what we're calling an ascension process, an energetic consciousness change is what it really is. They went through this consciousness renaissance already, and the process that they went through is similar to ours. It first comes with people becoming empowered, standing up with that power, demanding the truth, and then taking that truth and creating a whole new reality. That's what his people did. That's what we're in the process of trying to do. And we have a certain time frame to be able to turn things into a optimal temporal reality. If we don't, then we're not going to have this beautiful future that we've all dreamed about and aspired for.
Okay, so opening up about family, that's the next. So this question comes from Darren. Okay. And so he said, when I first started following Corey online, he didn't share much about his family, which I understand completely. Lately, seems to have been soon after the Chinook helicopter buzzed by his house, he's been opening up quite a bit. So his question is, how did you decide to start sharing more about your family?
That was very difficult. I knew that it would make some of them a target for these trolls, which, is unfortunate. But, one of the big things that I guess Bill Ryan used to say to me is that if you come out into the public, they can't knock you off because then they'll be proving your story or something like that, And there is a little bit of truth to that. If you go public, and especially public in a big way, what if, they would have knocked me off? That just would have validated a lot of what I was saying. So
you become a martyr.
Yeah, I become a martyr for a cause. Mm-hmm. Now, when it came to my family, we were under quite a bit of threat. And it was to show my family out there, just not as being a concept, but to see a real family. And that the threats coming in were against a real family. Another reason I started doing the vlog and being more public was that a lot of people were saying that I was trying to build myself up as a messiah figure and all this, when I'm just a regular guy. Anyone that spent time with me knows I'm just a regular guy. I don't walk around with airs like I'm spiritually above everyone, and so I don't do that. And I wanted to chronicle that and show people kind of like who I really am, so that they wouldn't look up to me. Because the whole point of this Blue Avian message is not to find someone to pray to or look up to. It is to look within. Take all of that energy that you're spending out here and use it within. And if you focus within and start fixing things in yourself, then, like I say, you're going to make the world a better place one person at a time.
This question is from a person that is retired military. So I'm retired Air Force. I remember while in college, when I was in ROTC, I was very curious, maybe a little bit obsessed about UFOs, and I frequently thought to myself, I wanted to get involved in the process of discovery, more about them firsthand. I knew for certain the Air Force was keeping tons of information from the public, and I knew I wanted to get involved. My question is, if I was inadvertently part of something I no longer remembered, how could I find out? How can we find out if we've ever been blank slated? Would you recommend hypnosis?
First of all, regression therapy can be a wonderful tool, but someone that just puts up a shingle and says, I'm a regression therapist, can do more damage. They can implant memories, not meaning to. They can front load you with information. Like say some information that becomes a part of your psyche. So you have to be very careful. People that have had, a good 5-10 years of experience doing it, I would check their references before considering. But regression therapy is a double-edged sword. It can be a beautiful thing, but it can also cause a lot of problems. Now, how do you know? If you have missing time during the time you served in the military, if you have dreams of occurrences that did not happen consciously in your service, your memories consciously of being in the service, then there's a good chance that you were being blank slated. In the Air Force especially, there are many, in civilian contractors, they are blank slated at the end of every day of work. They'll go home not remembering anything that they did at work, and they've accepted that that's a part of the job. So, a lot of people that have been in the military have been involved in things that they don't remember. You have to have some sort of an inkling that it happened to you before you start going to like a regression therapist. But you usually will have some sort of an idea.
If they're a part of something like what you were a part of, like the 20 and back, if they're going off planet and then they're coming back, and then so they're actually traveling back in time, they won't experience missing time, right?
No,
so are there any other ways that you could tell if you've been being blank slated?
The having dreams, the memories coming back, first of all, in your dreams, you having like PTSD, but with no real explanation to connect to the PTSD. Those are some signs. But in the military, most of the people in the 20 and back programs were military. Very few were civilian assets, and I happen to be one of them.
Okay, great answer. So this is a follow-up. How many people do you know how many people were part of the 20 and back, and like when it started, how long it lasted, and if it's still going on? I'm
told that it's still being used within the military, but they are using a lot of cloning technology now, a lot more, to where they're using disposable human beings that they clone. They're starting to use that as a method now to have manpower, because there are so many things that can go wrong with putting a person back in their life. Afterwards, it can start having the memories come back. Weird behavior can occur. So, and it's harder to keep the secret.
So there could be a gigantic cloning operation going on in Antarctica, and then they're just shipping them off world.
Yep.
Sounds like a really good sci-fi movie.
It does, doesn't it?
Let's make that one next. Let's see. Okay. So, what is your opinion of some of these other people, you don't have to use names, that have come out as saying that they were also part of the secret space program? Like, how has that affected you? I guess turning that question back on you.
Yeah, I mean, I've discussed the fact that some of the intelligence people said that they were going to super soldier the secret space program topic. Basically, some people came out that were part of super soldier programs, which, they're mentally and physically enhanced to do certain, operations. These people were starting to come out and tell their story, and to dilute the information, they started manipulating people to believe that they were a part of it. And then all of a sudden, now you have like 800 people going to a convention saying, I'm a super soldier, when probably 1 to 3% of them were actually in the program. The rest are there as subterfuge. They were going to do the same thing with the secret space program. And all these people come up with wild stories that are, similar to mine about being in the space program. At the same time, we have people that are watching Cosmic Disclosure and reading information about it online that are having like actual triggers of memories and that kind of a thing. So it's become kind of diluted. It's hard to really tell, unless I spend time with them, who is giving the real information. And quite honestly, it's not my place to go out and say, all these people are telling the truth and are not. I did that on one occasion where the person was causing a little bit of damage, I was told. But for the most part, I just let people share their information. The rest of the world can take it or leave it.
Fair enough. Okay, so let's see. Oh, I thought this was really interesting. Phyllis asked a question about brain and memory erase, is what she called it. Is there any correlation to your brain erase, the same as people who are incarnated who don't remember who they were prior to this birth? Is it the same thing? So with the blank slating / what I call soul amnesia.
Mm-hmm. There are a lot of similarities. I really can't answer that question other than to speculate. Mm-hmm. But how few people seem to be able to have bleed-through recall of past life memories, while others are not. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of correlations there to where it looks like before we enter this life, we are blank slated in a much deeper way than the way the military program does. That's a pretty interesting correlation. Yeah,
I had never thought of that before until that question came in from Phyllis, and I thought, she's making me think a little bit around that. It was a cool thought.
Yeah, there's really some bright viewers that watch this information.
Yeah, a lot of these emails I was getting, and I was just sitting there like, oh man. It's just like question after question that were great questions. Yeah. So
that's one of the things that's so humbling. There's so many really spiritual people in this community, and I'll be standing on stage and I'll feel the spiritual energy coming from them, and I'm humbled because I'm sitting there and I'm talking to a lot of these people and I'm sharing concepts that I don't need to be explaining to them. They could probably explain to me better. There's a lot more spiritual people, a lot more spiritually developed, than I am, that are in this community, and it can be humbling sometimes. At meet and greets, you'll meet, like, someone will come up, and like a lot of these ladies, they have this goddess energy about them. They'll come up to you and give you a hug, and you feel like this just beautiful, loving goddess energy. The energy from these people is amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I bet that had a huge effect on you coming out of just like the dark place where you feel like you're alone, and then being able to finally like come out into the real world. And,
yes.
yeah. Okay. So let's see. What do we have here? Oh, I just said real world, and that's the very next question, synchronicity. Your experience with this situation mirrors back your own life experiences where it feels like you're living in two separate realities, one spiritually based and the other one materialistic and limited. Our goal seems to be to acclimate and balance these two forces. How do you achieve that balance without getting caught up in all the noise of this reality? Is it also difficult to progress spiritually when in this duality?
Yeah, it's very hard to progress spiritually. I mean, a lot of people have seen the progress I've made over the last couple of years. It's been hard fought. I mean, it's been very difficult. A lot of people think, are putting out, Corey's making all this money for making up stuff for the show, and he's just kicking back, laughing at everybody. It's not the case. Like I stated before, I'm being forced to work on some really uncomfortable things about myself. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're not going to grow spiritually or, in this reality. You'll find yourself, stuck in jobs. You'll find yourself never evolving as a person. You'll look back 5 years ago, you're pretty much the same exact person as you are now. That is a cycle that we've got to break. We have to look back 6 months ago and see, wow, I've changed this, this, and this. You got to see progress, or you're going to get discouraged. And people that become discouraged, that happens through fear. And fear leads to hate, and hate leads to the dark side. Mm-hmm. So, I think that's why a lot of people are being drawn to the dark side right now.
How are some of the ways that you're progressing spiritually? Are there books that you're reading, people that you follow, or is it meditative work?
I'm not a real big book reader. I've got some books that I've read. Most of the spiritual guidance I'm getting is, through Kari. Ari, I guess I can say that. Excuse me. So a lot of the healing and spiritual growth that I'm having is occurring, through Kari. She is, really spending a lot of time forcing me to focus on things that are holding me back. And I still have quite a bit to work on. I am nowhere near perfect. My wife can tell you that. But I'm trying. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that you have to try. You have to put in the effort. If you sit back and are waiting for something magical to happen to you, you're going to be disappointed. You have to go out and seek out the magic.
Be the magic.
Be the magic.
Okay, so our next question comes from Sydney, and she says, how would one discern if the blue avians were from the true light of the creator and not the false light of an imposter race? I've heard that the blue avians are an Illuminati mind control program and that high-level members at parties put on a blue avian headdress.
Yeah, a lot of this goes back to ancient Egypt, when the blue avians tried to intervene one other time to get us to change. The information that they brought was used as a control system and adopted by the Illuminati. Now, I have not seen anything about a blue bird mask being worn at any type of Illuminati functions. That's, people are just kind of making stuff up and putting it out there. A lot of people are saying, the blue avians are actually the reptilians in disguise. Some of the military are trying to make all this fit in their little box, and they're like, well, we know the Nordics do a lot of manipulation of humanity. We think it's the Nordics that are creating the blue avians. So, you do have to use discernment. And the biggest discernment I think you can use is, what is the message? Is it a message of disempowerment? I hear a lot of people out there that are saying service to others is a psyop. It's a way to get us to give away our sovereignty and think of other people and not think about ourselves and our own growth. And
That's funny because as soon as you started talking about that, I started getting. Might get some water really quick. Holy crap! That's really funny. Some energies probably don't want you talking about that. That's hilarious.
Okay. I think the best way for anyone to discern whether something's coming from the light or the dark, it all goes back to, you know a tree by its fruit, is truly a message of forgiving yourself and forgiving others for damage that they've done. Is that Illuminati or Luciferian? Is the fact that they want you to think thoughtful of other people, service to others? Is that Luciferian? Is that, it just doesn't bear out. Everything all of the information that the Blue Avians have delivered has been positive, empowering, and uplifting spiritually. There has not been any type of negativity or divisive information. So.
Okay. We have a question from Andreas from Germany. Do you ever get confused? How do you manage your memory? If you've experienced more than 120 and back, do you get confused about your timelines?
Yes. Now, the 320 and backs occurred, the last one I believe was in 1997. Those two are mostly still suppressed because of the Mayans. Those seem to be the darkest things I was involved in. It was during the last two. Now, I'm meeting with Gonzalez quite often because I'm having memory issues, signs of temporal dementia that occur from being a part of these 20 and back programs and being around torsion drives and all the heavy fields involved with the technology. So, that is affecting my memory. Now, one of the things that's been occurring that's pretty crazy is that I've been having these weird episodes where I'm flashing back to one of these 20 and backs that I don't have full memory of. It's a weird thing. I will, all of a sudden, I will feel kind of confused and then bilocated, like I'm somewhere else. And then I'll look around, and the latest one was I was in a full biosuit walking around what looked like a very ancient facility. And I was walking with a team of people, also all in these biosuits. And all of a sudden, I went up against the wall, put my hands up against the wall, and was feeling all like didn't know who I was, where I was, what was going on. But I was looking around, and this woman's grabbing my helmet, looking at me, trying to talk to me, and she's telling someone else, "It's happening again. It's happening again." So it's like, it's not just your memory. Your soul has like a zero time reference. Mm-hmm. And when you're being pulled out of that time reference and put back in, and you have like 20 years of memory, your psyche has to try to make sense of that. They're stacking the 20 years on top of each other, and then it can be, if I had full recall of the other two, I would probably be in the same state of being almost suicidal.
So it's like your soul is existing in two places at once, and you can go between those two.
Yeah, it's weird. It's almost like I would be sitting here now, and then all of a sudden bilocate to that other timeline, mm-hmm. and me in the other timeline is affected by me connecting to it, and it causes me to, like, in that timeline, to also be like, whoa, what's going on?
It's like you're astral projecting from here to there.
Something, yeah.
And maybe you on that other timeline is feeling that interference.
Yeah, there's something like that going on. Yeah, it's really weird. There are a lot of weird things. And then psychologically, your subconscious is trying to make sense out of 3 timelines or 4 timelines stacked on top of each other. And your subconscious is trying to keep that in line with your zero time reference of, the timeline that it knows, linear time. And it's hard for your psyche to make sense of it.
How frequently does that happen?
It's only happened a few times.
Okay.
Yeah.
When was the first time it happened?
The first time was right after Gonzalez told me about the 2 extra 20 and backs, more details about it, and how it was affecting me. And he was doing work on me to try to alleviate some of the issues I was having.
Interesting. So when you're away on the 20 and back, do you know, I mean, this might be a dumb question, but do you know that you're on the 20 and back? Like, do you know that you're going to be, so maybe when you're there on that timeline, you started thinking about you here on Earth, and there was a connection there as well, yeah. So that
Einstein-Rosen bridge is created between timelines.
Yeah. Wow, that's fascinating.
Thank you to everybody for submitting questions, and thank you, Corey, so much for coming on the show. And I wanted to end with letting you talk a little bit about Eclipse of Disclosure.
Yes, we're going to have a huge event in McLeod, California. It is real close to Mount Shasta. It is going to be an awesome event of about 500 people, like-minded, positive people coming together to be with their tribe, as we call it. And we're going to have a lot of good speakers and workshops. We're going to have, Jay Widener is our keynote. We have Bentinho Massaro. Dr. Sala is going to be there. Laura Eisenhower. I think Clifford Mahudi is going to be there. Let's see, who am I missing? Not only that, but we have a lot of people that are going to be giving workshops on what,
Eric Rains, I think, is doing. Yeah, I'll be doing a workshop.
Yes, I'm doing a workshop.
I know that Jordan
will be doing one.
Jordan Sather.
Yes.
And Justin Deschamps.
Justin Deschamps.
I think he's actually speaking. I don't know who.
I think he's a speaker, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Let's see. We have Vivian Davis is going to be doing a presentation on the Post-Disclosure Project that has to do with the psychology initiative of developing a post-disclosure plan to help people cope. I think that they're going to be doing some pretty interesting workshops on different things, such as the Law of One. So it's going to be very cool. It's going to be very fun. In 2016, in Mount Shasta, it was just Dr. Sala, Laura Eisenhower, and myself speaking, and we had over 300 people. It was packed. Everybody loved it. It was a place where so many beautiful things were born. So many people came together on this mission. We're looking really forward to it.
Who's throwing the event, and how did you guys, isn't it Full Disclosure Project?
Yes, Full Disclosure Project. Roger's doing a lot of the work, but we have, like Adrian. We've got a lot of people on our team that are really helping get this organized. But this is going to be our first production as a group. So we're really excited about it.
That's awesome. Can't wait. And when is it?
It is during the eclipse in August 18th through, I believe, the 23rd. Mm-hmm. Is that correct?
Yes. Awesome.
And we have a link to brown paper tickets where you can buy your tickets. We're also going to webcast it. It's not going to be live streamed because of the technology isn't going to work with us there. But we're going to be doing webcasts that people can purchase if you can't be there. But we really want to see you there. I want to meet you. This is going to be an event where it's going to be, there's going to be a lot of interaction between the speakers and the people attending. We really want to see you there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Corey. And thank you guys. And make sure to subscribe to The Divine Frequency. And if you have any questions or comments, please email me at thedivinefrequency@gmail.com. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Action.
Okay.
I am your cult leader. I command you act. Submit yourself before me now.
Well, thank you, Corey, for being such a wonderful cult leader. I just feel
yes. That's why everyone follows me. I'm so demanding.
So, thank you. What's that?
Here's some Kool-Aid.
Oh, sweet.
Drink the whole thing. May taste a little
Drink
bit like
until
almonds.
you get dizzy, and then
Yeah, it's almond flavored, so don't let that throw you off.
almond flavored Kool-Aid. It's a new kind. It's organic.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Alrighty.